Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to Sleeping Dogs. Looks like I've run into another random event.
He's destroying all my sunglasses.
I'll get him out of here.
Who? The guy who's crouching at an angle? The, couple of guys just sort of wandering around through the middle of the store? I mean, I guess we're looking for a drunk, so it's probably the guy with the open can.
Hello, can I help you with anything?
Even though it doesn't look like he's harming anything. Okay. Put him in a trunk. Why not? Oh. Did not expect someone to drive off with the car. Wait, what? Wait, what? What?
Please be careful with those sunglasses. You're breaking them.
Um...
Wow, glasses.
Oh, okay, let's try this again, and this time let's not harm the storekeeper? Okay, so there is a driver in there the whole time. What? And who the hell keeps pointing and accusing me of whatever? Apparently I'm not allowed to call a car right now, so luckily a taxi just drove up. Anywho, you can see here we've got some other side stuff to do today. Yeah, you can only drop yourself off at certain stores and parking garages. So, that's why I set up the waypoint first, because, the waypoint sticks around even though the favor itself doesn't. Go figure.
Hey, what can I do for you?
Anyway, since I'm, helping out with the Triad and Triad business, I figured I'd dress up in the Triad Enforcer outfit and drive the Triad Enforcer car, which we earned very recently. I believe the Triad Enforcer gets a melee boost. Fairly standard stuff. But, it's appreciated when it comes up. Speaking of which, what you need?
Hey, Big Eddie. What's the mission?
I've got a big shipment of dope for the mainland. I need to get it to the ferry safely, and 18K is coming after it. Can you ride shotgun and keep them off my back?
Let's do it.
Let's go!
I guess we're taking his car. Smash through the window immediately. Why not?
Nice shot! Here they come! Behind us!
Alright.
Good one!
Looks like this is a motorcycle gang. Shooting,
Hit that fucker!
Man, they are literally appearing out of nowhere here.
Shit, more of them! Oh yeah!
Now this most definitely does not have a Triad score, so,
These fuckers don't let up!
it's a favor. Basically, as long as I take them out, doesn't really matter.
These guys!
Honestly, I could do whatever else I wanted on one of these missions, and it wouldn't affect the score at all. I mean, I'm only doing this for face and relatively small amount of money. Man, these are some really explosive motorcycles. Damn. Hopefully that didn't do too much to the car health. I gotta say, whoever the 18K has been driving their motorcycles from, they really shouldn't experiment with nitroglycerin fuel like this. It's not safe, Yep, I could just totally take out civilian cars on a mission like this. No problem. Who cares? I don't. Bye-bye. Oh, hey there, buddy. Want to tap the side of my car like that? Face the consequences. Oh, that one actually blew up, too. Huh. Windshield's gone. Wonder when that happened. Yeah, honestly, these kind of get repetitive immediately, so you know, this is basically me just trying to spice things up a bit, making all these poor civilian cars explode. So we done? I can't get out of the car anymore, so I guess we're done. Yeah, people freak out if you have a weapon out in Hong Kong. And, you know, if you keep it out for long enough, I think you just automatically get police attention. One of them will just spawn in and it'll happen, you know. By the way, yeah, I decided I didn't want to wait for the car guy. Ah, damn it. I was hoping he would grab this side. But yeah, you may have noticed, but I'm about to unlock the other gambling den on the other side of Hong Kong Island.
Hey, Mr. Shen, can you help me out?
Yeah, sure, but here, let me get this first. It'll save me a trip later. Ooh. Another fake V-neck. So many of those.
What's the problem?
I got some drunks playing a game around the corner. They're scaring off our customers. I'll deal with them myself, but I'm not allowed to leave the door.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it.
Oh, toss them overboard.
Hey.
Oh, apparently they mean these guys. Oof. Wait, the other guy didn't go overboard. I guess that counted. But yeah, interior here is essentially identical to the interior of the other ship. I mean, the guy with the game waiting is in a slightly different location, but hey, you can still get the same melee upgrade here. Refreshing. Alright, now luckily they've got a speedboat here so I can get out, get away from this ship a little bit faster. But yeah, that's it for the side stuff right now, so it's time to tie up some loose ends and wipe.
Hey, man.
Wait! You won't believe what those assholes did!
Who?
Those guys are top glamour, they're fucking with me! I brought them another load of watches. They were supposed to give me 200,000 for them. Instead, they give me this hunk of shit. I don't even know how to ride this thing. I had to push it here.
Calm down. Give me the bike. I'll get you your money.
What are you gonna do?
Same thing I always do, Jackie.
Clean up your messes. Seriously though, that's a fairly nice bike. It probably is worth 200,000 in Hong Kong dollars. I mean, that's about comparable what you can get it off of one of the black market car dealers. So, you know, they didn't shortchange him. They just paid with goods instead of cash. And I guess what Wei Shen here is trying to do is saying, sorry, goods not accepted. We only accept payment in bills.
You gonna let me in?
All right, come on in.
Alright, the music just got all suspenseful. Once again, the GPS is getting weird here.
What do you want?
My friend Jackie tells me you owe him some money.
You're sitting on it. And where'd you get off strong-arming me, huh? I know you're a cop.
And I know you're a snitch. You want to see who your boys kill first?
Fuck you. Kill him! Kill him!
Well, this just escalated quickly. Alright, I got a submachine gun on, so I might as well take out some guys while I'm here. Unfortunately, I have to be pretty much right next to them because this is a submachine gun and I'm on a moving vehicle. So, you know, tire shots or point-blank range, or it just doesn't happen. My point illustrated here. You know, driving slowly here, so I've got more time to actually hit something. Like these convenient explosive barrels. Somehow that guy survived all of that, and I had to just shoot him. Yeah, no Naz is not getting away. In fact, the game wants me to blow up that fuel tank behind him. That is the only way that so we're going to advance the story, just so you know.
That's it, asshole. Come on, fuckers!
I'm not sure that explosive barrel took anyone with it. And I got a headshot? Damn miracle. Alright, but I gotta be careful with my ammunition because, you know, I'm not in a car. The supply is limited. And besides that, I need one of these cars to be functional so I can make my getaway. As illustrated here. Yeah, I don't know the get in car button for the keyboard, but I'm not about to switch to the controller yet.
Shut up!
Because I'm not done exploding things yet. Oh, jeez. Oh, and there it goes. How about you? Oh, yep. Oh man, I just missed the gate. Damn. 2 for 1.
You're making a big mistake, I tell you!
Be quiet!
Dude, you made the first big mistake.
Inspector, I have one of your informants in the trunk of my car.
What?
Yeah, he needs to disappear right now. So either you make him disappear or I will.
Bring him over.
Naz, as a character, seems
You have yourself to blame.
underdeveloped. Like, there was a real opportunity to make him sort of an anti-Wei Shen by playing both sides and being on the being from the criminal side instead of being an undercover. But no, instead, in basically his second appearance, he just escalates things until there's only one solution, at least as far as Wei Shen is concerned.
Hey! Did we stop? Let me out of here! I fucking shit myself! Fucker! Hey, let me out of here, you fucker! My people are gonna cut you into pieces, you hear me? Huh? You hear me, you fucker?
Here's your guy. Hope you still want him. But I don't want this coming back to bite me in the ass.
I'll take care of it. Where he's going, he won't be in a position to tell anyone anything.
Hey, I can hear you! What the fuck are you doing out there? Open in the fucking truck, will you?
Hey, show the lady some respect.
But yeah, like, why did he press that point? I mean, just over one particular transaction, even if it was 200,000 Hong Kong. Alright, final tree I'm getting started on here. Triad defense. Let's see, what's new here? What's new? Ah. I think he's Indian. Which is kind of an interesting ethnicity to have in Hong Kong. I mean, obviously there's a connection, because both of them were at one point British colonies, but still.
Wei, I have something for you.
What is it?
Dead triads, 6 of them in the past few months. All found by the water. All sliced open.
Well, what do the investigators think?
What investigators? You think HKPD puts a lot of effort into solving dead gangsters?
So what, they're not people now?
This is why I'm coming to you. We just found 3 new bodies under the Aberdeen Bridge. Get down there and take a look around. And Wei, uniform officers on the scene say at least one of them is from your crew.
What? You positive?
Keep your head on straight, officer. And your eyes open.
Alright, we're starting the 3rd case now.
Are you sure? I've never heard of Loki. I've never even heard the name. Whoever heard of a triad named after a Norse god? Someone in your department is dipping into confiscated dope, Lieutenant.
I'm not sure what that's a reference to, off the top of my head. A triad named after a Norse god. That has to be referring to something. I'm just not sure what.
My curry fish
I'm
balls will
starving.
blow your mind! Excellent. You'll see, these things work wonders.
I wonder if the fishbowls guy ever talks to anybody.
Hey, it's Wei. I need a car.
A car? Takla! I'll be there right away.
Alright. Well, I'm going to be continuing my trend of putting off story missions, so let me show you something interesting here.
Here you go. I hope this is good enough.
Thanks.
Yeah, if you get into the car fast enough, the car valet guy will be in the car with you. You can see him there. It's kind of hard through the half-tinted rear there, but he was there. I mean, he's gone now. He just sort of despawned on the highway at some point, but yeah, it's kind of interesting that you can let that happen. You can make that happen, I should say. Now, isn't this outfit familiar?
Who are you?
Bomb squad. You here see anything suspicious, officer?
What? No. Is there a bomb?
Could go off at any minute. I'm guessing the blast won't go more than a few hundred meters.
Excuse me. I forgot something in my car.
Dude, they'd have you clear the perimeter anyway. You don't have to look like a coward. Alright. Yeah, this is sort of the docks area underneath the highway overpasses. The Aberdeen Fight Club is in this area. Interesting that he got a police blazer out of an ambulance, I'm just realizing. They did not go in for the unique bodies, did they?
Vincent?
Yep, Vincent's dead. I think you see him in a couple of missions.
Son of a bitch. Someone did surgery on these guys.
And then put their shirts back on. How polite.
Everyone the same. This is no ordinary serial killer.
But yeah, these bodies just have the usual blood decals on them. But you don't actually see any surgery marks, so you just have to take his word for it. Ah, well, wait a second. They found 3 bodies. Who are in those bags? Right. Anyway, that's all we really needed to do here. So we're just coming up here to get back into our previous outfit.
Tank, it's Way.
What did you find out?
Vincent. They got Vincent.
I'm sorry. I know he was your friend. What are you gonna do next?
All the victims were son ID. All had an organ removed, cut right out of them. You're right, this isn't just about murder.
What's your next step?
The removal looks professional. A surgeon of some kind. I'm gonna look into the hospital records. If somebody's stealing organs, they gotta be using them for something.
All right. Keep me informed.
Yeah, you would think that they would move them, out of the area to be less suspicious, but, honestly, with organs, that's not always an option. Those things are very perishable once they leave your body. Hope they're not taking livers. I mean, you gotta be in shape to be a triad bruiser, but you don't need a good liver. Right, anyway, we're continuing the chain of evidence here by heading down to the hospital and illegally searching their records. I wonder if they could throw this out if and when Wei Shen drops his cover. Police are allowed to receive evidence under certain conditions that, they would not be able to gather for themselves because they represent the government. Private individuals do not.
Another hit and run. Poor guy got thrown right across the road.
What's wrong with the drivers these days?
I don't know. Seems like something going on. I can't remember ever seeing this many accidents. It's almost like someone is running down people on purpose.
Have you told the cops?
Told them what? It's not for me to make that call.
I guess.
You want to grab some noodles?
Sure.
Don't know how that could have happened. Anyway.
What are you doing here?
You in the habit of challenging doctors, nurse? I'm saving lives. What are you doing here?
So sorry, doctor. My apologies.
Man, she's gonna badmouth you so bad as soon as you're out of earshot. Alright, hacking minigame. Back to this. Oh man. It's normally not that easy.
Looks like Dr. Sang is doing a lot of kidney transplants. Where are you getting your donors, Sang?
You catch those gunshot victims the other day?
Couple of them. I can't believe someone shot up a wedding. Barbarians. These triad guys. Gee, more younger. Complete animals.
I know. It's scary even working on them.
I keep expecting someone to rush in and finish them off. Could happen.
Thanks. That made me feel a lot better.
I'm not saying it will.
I have enough trouble sleeping as it is.
We're under a time limit, but it is fairly generous, so I could afford to just stand there and listen. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that I'm doing this whole police case in this particular with the movie I'll be reviewing after this. It's usually doesn't line up so well. But I'll just be cagey for now because you'll find out what thematic links the video and the movie have in common soon enough. Soon enough. They also want me to break into a safe. Man, this is a mini-game free-for-all here. One thing we're missing is the regular lock-picking minigame.
Four-finger woo? What are you doing meeting 18K Red Bull saying, motherfucker, killing Sun Onion guys just to get organs for an 18K ring?
Well, you gotta kill guys for any reason, might as well be your enemies. That's why old civilizations used to sacrifice prisoners of war on the altars of their dread gods.
Tang, it's Wayne.
What have you found?
I've got the doctor. He's doing a lot of transplants off the books, and he's got ties to an 18K Red Pole. I planted a bug in his office. You should be able to listen in on him.
That was a cheery guy. Ah, right. Gotta return the outfit. Don't think I missed you, blinking light in the distance. So my original plan, just so you know, was to grab this and just end the video here. It can be hard for me to tell when I've hit about 30 minutes, because I got a lot of driving time I need to cut out for most of these. But yeah, so I was going to end here, except...
Tang, it's Wei. Stay on that wiretap. I expect Sang to be doing an emergency kidney transplant at any minute.
He already got the call. But wait, they picked up the donor too. It's Calvin. Your friend, Calvin.
Shit. I have to warn him.
They're saying he's in Central. They're already after him. But wait, you can't let him see you. The only way you'd know he's in trouble is if you're a cop.
Well, that complicates things. But yeah, the mission just sort of insisted that I continue it. And so I am. You missed a little bit, like a text message warning, I think. But aside from that, it was just that and about like 100 feet of walking. Fortunately, I'm in my fastest balls car, so I can get over there in no time at all. See? We're already here. Low frame rate trunk there. Alright. That was easier than I thought it would be. Driver didn't get out though. That's interesting. But yeah, we're just taking this to a place where certain people can pick it up. And we're not letting Calvin out of the trunk. Because if we did so, he would see us. Instead, he's just getting a wild and mysterious ride that will end with nothing in particular happening.
Okay, I got him. Pull in Dr. Sang.
You sure?
Tragic story of modern medicine, Inspector. Not every patient makes it.
Way.
I'm leaving this guy in the parking structure off Quock Street in Central. Make sure you send someone to let Calvin out of that trunk.
Dr. Sang confessed. He's done more than 20 transplants for 18K in the past 2 years alone. The guy gives urban myths a bad name. He'll get 10 to 20 in maximum security. When you consider that all his victims were triads, I wonder how long he'll actually serve. 18K won't be happy, but I'll personally sleep a lot better knowing he's not out there. Doesn't bring back your friend, but I think it's fair to call it justice.
20 years for killing 20 people in 2 years? It's better than nothing, but I wouldn't call it justice. Oh yeah. This happened on the way to one of my destinations. Thought you might want to see it. Not a scratch on him. Today's movie is a request by Final Gamer James, and it takes us to a new nation, Korea. The work in question is a crime thriller that has nothing to do with martial arts, but it does have some thematic connections. It's a 2002 movie, whose English title is Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. The story about the story. Korea. Korea is a peninsula stuck to Manchuria that points roughly to the southern tip of Japan. It's actually a pretty big place, with a land area almost equal to Japan's main island. And it only looks small because it's surrounded by gigantic nations like Russia and China. Korea's national identity is uniquely solid because it remained a unified kingdom under a single dynasty for over 500 years. Also, the nation was very isolationist for several of those centuries, to a degree that put Japan's isolationism to shame and earned it the Western nickname the Hermit Kingdom, which, go figure, is still a fairly accurate name for North Korea. But this is the short version of their history, so let me get to the point. Isolation is good for stability, but it's terrible if you want to keep up with new technologies or new concepts like rationalism, representative democracy, or natural rights. And so while Japan was fortunate enough to modernize just in time to avoid colonialism, Korea was more in China's boat, where the old guard were too entrenched to allow modern ideas or technology to take hold, even if it was for the kingdom's and ultimately their own well-being. And while China was too big for a colonial power to claim, the same was not true about Korea. And it just so happened that a new colonial power was gaining steam right across the Korean Strait. During the 1890s and 1900s, the years when motion picture technology was first in development, Japan pulled Korea into its sphere of influence, occupied it with their military, declared it a protectorate, and finally annexed the kingdom in 1910. The peninsula remained in occupied territory until 1945, the year Japan's imperial ambitions ended in a big way. By that point, the northern half had been occupied by Soviet troops, which led to the North-South Divide, the Korean War, and the two Koreas we know today. Despite the occupation, Korea started producing its own films in the late 1910s. Or rather, it was a result of the occupation, because all the Korean film studios were owned by Japanese people. As such, early Korean films basically followed along with Japanese trends, which meant, among other things, that they would use films as rear-projected backgrounds for plays, and use live actors to speak the lines of the film instead of using intertitles. Fun fact though, this live theater element meant that movies would get a lot more satirical and critical of the occupation when the Japanese weren't around. Following World War II, Korea wasn't exactly liberated, so much as it was handed over to a pair of military dictatorships. The northern, sponsored by the Soviet Union and China, and the southern, sponsored by the United States and Japan. Still, this was as close to self-rule as Korea had been in 40 years, and the first post-war years saw a lot of films about freedom and the Korean resistance. Things obviously slowed down during the Korean War of 1950 to 53, but afterwards, the South Korean film industry boomed in a big way, thanks to a tax exemption handed down by the presidential dictator. Unfortunately, censorship would rear its ugly head the way it always does under autocratic governments. The first president wasn't too bad so long as a film wasn't obviously communist, but his successor, Park Chung-hee, imposed some harsh restrictions in 1963. Things got even worse when President Park imposed martial law in the early 70s, and by the end of the decade, a film had to be blatant propaganda or it wouldn't be made. However, President Park also sponsored a politically destabilizing amount of economic growth. Spreading the wealth also spreads political power, and so South Korea started democratizing throughout the 80s and 90s. Their government still has serious problems with corruption, but film censorship has practically evaporated. The industry does need protectionist laws to keep from falling too far under Hollywood's shadow, but by the late 90s, their films became good enough to be worth exporting to other markets. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance was part of this initial wave of quality Korean films. The movie was directed by Park Chan-wook, one of the most famous directors in South Korea. He was also on the writing team, though he left most of the other jobs to other people. Sympathy is part of what's considered the Vengeance trilogy, although it's really more of a trilogy the same way the Man with No Name movies are a trilogy. They share a director, some actors, and a running theme, but the stories are completely unrelated. And I may just get to one of those other movies eventually, but for right now, I should focus on the story. The film begins with a woman, a radio DJ, reading a letter written by the protagonist, a man named Ryu who is deaf and mute. The letter sets up the backstory. Ryu loves his sister, his only living relative, but she's dying of something that involves kidney failure, and so he's signed up to donate his own kidney whether she likes it or not. Unfortunately, it turns out they have different blood types, and so his kidney is no good. Ryu goes to the batting range to take out his frustrations, and while he's in the bathroom, some guys show up with ads for black market organs. We then spend some time getting to know Ryu, his job at a foundry, his noisy apartment, and his anarchist girlfriend named Cha Young-mi. Oh, wait, no, hang on. I think he just got fired from his job. It's kinda hard to tell since the movie uses Korean cultural cues. Desperate, and without a job to pay for medical bills, Ryu seeks out the black market organ dealers. They meet in a half-constructed building where their leader says she'll trade a kidney for one of Ryu's kidneys and 10 million won, which is worth about $9,000. Ryu agrees, but when he wakes up, he's naked and less one kidney, and there's no sign of any other kidneys or organ dealers anywhere in sight. 21 days pass, and now there's another wrinkle. The hospital has miraculously found a donor, but since Ryu emptied his bank account for the black market deal, he has no money to pay for the operation. When he tells his girlfriend, Young-mi beats him up for a bit, which is probably what he wanted her to do. But once she's done, she tells Ryu not to give up, even though they have 1 week to come up with the money. We see why Young-mi isn't ready to give up in the next scene, shot from a car that's watching 2 young girls go out for the day. Young-mi's idea is to kidnap the daughter of the man who fired Ryu. And while Ryu is reluctant, he's also desperate. But after watching a laid-off welder confront the executive and cut his own stomach in protest, Ryu realizes that kidnapping the man's daughter is way too obvious. So he edits the plan. Instead, they'll kidnap the daughter of the executive's friend, Park Dong-jin. The kidnapping itself turns out to be easy. They tell the girl, Yoo-sun, that they're friends of her father, and they'll be babysitting her for a few days. Not only does she buy it, but so does Ryu's sister, who is not aware of what he's up to. Park follows the kidnapper's instructions, traveling by subway and bus to a remote park at the edge of the city. He brings along a suitcase full of roughly $25,000, and he lets Ryu tie him up and blindfold him so he can get away with the money. When Ryu gets home, he's as happy as he can be. But then Yusun hands him what turns out to be his sister's suicide note. While Ryu was gone, she found out that he was fired, and she put the pieces together about the kidnapping, and the fact that this was all for her sake upset her so much that she slit her wrists in the bathtub and died. Ryu drives both his sister and Yusun out of the city so he can bury his sister under rocks by the river where they both loved to play as kids. But while he's busy with that, Yusun falls off a crappy old pier into the river and drowns. She cries out for him, but Ryu can't hear her, and he doesn't turn around until after it's too late. And now I would just like to take a moment to say, fuck, man. Fuck. Time passes, and someone discovers Yusun's body. Park cries like a baby when the police bring him to the river, and he has a hard time answering the investigators' questions. We then go through the whole process following Yusun's death, from the autopsy to incinerating her casket. And then there's the hallucinations afterwards. We learn that, among all the other tragic ironies, Park was thinking about taking his daughter to swimming lessons soon. Fuck, man. Fuck. Park sells his business and his house, and he hires a man to search for his daughter's killer. And the trail starts with the apartment which Ryu has now abandoned. As for Ryu himself, he's still in shock over what happened, but young Mi gets him out of it with some sex. Back at the old apartment, Park overhears the DJ from the start of the movie reading another letter by Ryu, in which he admits that his sister died and it was all his fault. Park visits the radio station, and it turns out the letter came with watercolors, the last of which depicted the fatal scene by the river. This lets Park discover the sister's burial site, and along with the body, he finds a mentally disabled guy who saw the whole thing happen and remembers details about Ryu's car. Meanwhile, Ryu and young Mi's new goal is to get back at the organ dealers who stole his kidney. So young Mi poses as a mother with a dying young daughter who wants to order an organ. And after that, Ryu tracks them to their new hideout and kills them. Very gruesomely, I should add. Or at least the second kill is. Oh, no, hang on. Now Ryu is smashing the first guy's head in with his baseball bat. Fuck. While Ryu is out, Park finds young Mi's apartment, ties her to a chair, and then tortures her with electricity to get Ryu's location. She takes a moment to apologize for what happened, but she also warns him that she's friends with terrorists, and they will definitely kill him if she turns up dead. But Park is either not impressed or doesn't care anymore, and he electrocutes her. The reason Ryu is late coming back is because he got stabbed in the gut by the old woman organ dealer, and so he has to fight through the crowds and the police tape to find out that young Mi is dead. Which happens when the sheet falls off her face on the elevator ride to the ground floor. Fuck, man. Ryu and Park now have nothing left except revenge against each other. Each of them stakes out a location they think the other will be at, until eventually Ryu leaves and goes to, well, I guess it's his apartment, because Park is lying in wait there and he electrified the doorknob. Park is not entirely sure what he wants to do with Ryu when he's lying helpless beneath him. But eventually he comes up with an idea. He drives Ryu back to the river, drags him to the middle, and then cuts his hands free. Park admits that he knows Ryu isn't a bad man, but he also says he still has to kill him. And so he ducks under the water and cuts open Ryu's ankles. I'd say Achilles tendons, but he takes out a lot more than just those. He then drags Ryu's body to the shore and starts digging a hole, but then young Mi's friends show up, as promised, and they stab him dead. The end. The analysis. A tragedy, or at least a classical tragedy, is built around the phrase, if only. If only this had happened instead of that, we could have avoided this whole mess. And boy howdy, there are a lot of if only statements you can make about this movie. If only Ryu had communicated to his boss that he was missing days because of his sick sister, maybe the guy wouldn't have fired him. If only Ryu hadn't been so desperate and given all of his money to sketchy black market organ dealers. If only they hadn't screwed Ryu, they'd still be alive. If only the disabled guy hadn't woken Yusun up so that she'd get curious and wander onto the dock. If only her father had taught her how to swim. If only Ryu was facing the river when he was burying his sister under the rocks. It feels like I could keep going down this list forever. Tragic irony is built around the fact that we, the audience, can see and understand things that the characters within the tragedy can't. We have the benefit of perspective, of hindsight. And if we know the story, then we also know the future. If we were there, we could do something, avert the pain and sorrow. But we can't. The story plays out, the characters make the best decisions they can, but everything goes wrong, and the audience experiences catharsis as we feel sympathy for the pain of others. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is not a realistic story, and I'm fairly sure it was never meant to be. There are too many if-onlys, too many contrivances for this story to ever really happen. Instead, this movie is a tragic poem with repeating motifs and themes that embrace the mood of a tragedy and communicate that to the audience in more ways than one. Each story beat ends with a tragedy, the same way poem forms like rondels repeat lines, sestinas repeat words, and villanelles end every stanza with the same two refrains. And that's not all that makes this movie poetic. Ryu is not deaf and mute because that lets one of the key tragedies take place. He's deaf and mute because that is part of this movie's symbolism. Each tragedy takes place because nobody has all the information they need to make the right decision. And the fact that Ryu cannot receive or communicate as much information as a non-disabled person is symbolic of this theme. We also see this in the shot blocking, which often cuts off one or more characters in the scene. When we first see Ryu with his girlfriend, the shot is behind the mirror at the foot of young Mi's bed, and we don't have a clear view of either character. When the detective interviews Park on the riverbank, we can see all of the detective, but only the arms and legs of Park. These shots illustrate the idea that we don't always have all of the information that we need. But at the same time, we, the audience, are every second reminded that we have more information than the protagonist does. The music in this movie is used sparingly, and it really only plays during the most intense and active moments in the film. For all the rest, we have background noise. We hear the cicadas of summer in establishing shots, the noisy neighbors in Ryu's apartment, cars driving through the city, the rushing water of the river. All of these background sounds are mixed louder than they would be in a normal film. And on top of that, the audience is constantly aware of these sounds because we know that Ryu can't hear any of it. A fact that's confirmed by the low and constant roar we hear anytime we cut to a POV shot. We can understand more of the world because we can hear and Ryu cannot. And in just the same way, we can see the dramatic irony of the story, which Ryu, being in the story, cannot. Thanks for joining me again for today's film review, and I hope I'll see you next time for a very unique Bruce Lee clone, whose villain is the Shogun of Harlem.